Hi guys, and welcome to the new classroom. We will be doing a demonstration here for you. This will be your first Photoshop project, and what we're going to be doing is repairing an old photograph. I've already done this tutorial using Photoshop, and this is the online, it's free, Photopea.com. It is just the simple kind of alternate to Photoshop. It has most of the same functions, most of the same tools. Certainly it will have the functions and tools that we need for this assignment. Just go to Photopea.com and you don't have to download anything. It's right there, it's safe, it's not buggy. Unfortunately, it's got ads, as you can see. I don't know, what are you going to do about that? So what we're going to be doing, guys, is we are going to be repairing an old photograph. In Photopea, you can start a new project, you can open from your computer, you can go to your demo, or whatever. If you want to see how it works, certainly go to the demo. I'm going to show you how this works as far as repairing the old photo is concerned. So I just have my old photo strategically placed on my desktop. I'm just going to grab it and drag it onto my canvas. And there you go. That's the photo that we are going to be creating. And then what we're going to do is turn that photo into this photo. Okay, so you can see the two different photos side by side. We're going to get rid of all of this damage and we're going to fix it all up so it looks nice and fresh and crisp and presentable. So we're going to be using a few tools, okay, and bear with me, I don't know where all these tools are. It's a little bit of a different layout. We will be using the spot healing brush. We'll be using the clone tool. We'll be using the eraser tool. We will be using the move tool. And we will be also using this tool right here. And this is the rectangle select. And I'll explain why we're using the rectangle select. But the quick reason right now is that this particular program, clone tool, doesn't work exactly the same way as it does on Photoshop. So we have to take a little more complicated step. Not real complicated, but a little bit. And then we'll be creating new layers using our new layer button down here as well. Okay, the first thing we want to do, you guys, is we want to get rid of all of these things here. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to get rid of all these lines and these little missing pieces and so on. But before we do that, I want to enlarge this image a little bit so I can see more. So to do that, you simply hold down Command on your Mac keyboard or Control on your PC keyboard and hit the plus button. And now we have basically doubled the size of our image, and now we can see what's going on. If you want to make it smaller for whatever reason, do the exact opposite. Command and the minus button. Okay, so Command plus, and it lets us bring it up a little bit. So the first thing we want to do is get rid of all of these lines. So we're going to start with our spot healing brush tool. Okay, so make sure we're using the spot healing brush tool, and we're simply going to sort of paint over these lines. Take your time. Don't do great big long strokes, and don't do big fat brushes. You want to sort of keep the brush roughly the same size as the line, because what it's doing is it's actually reading all of the information around the little circle that you see on this forehead right here and filling it in. It's content aware. And so the larger that circle, the broader it's pulling information in. And you want it small, otherwise you'll see the repairs. If you want to make, by the way, this larger or smaller, if you want to make it larger, just your right square bracket key, just tap it as many times as you need to make it larger. And if you want to make it smaller, your left square bracket key makes it smaller. And just take your time. This is a little bit of a process. I will fast forward through this once I kind of get going. I just want you to see what we're doing here. I tend to like to grab the little guys here, all these small little problematic areas, and then go back and focus on the larger things like these missing pieces. Once again, guys, take your time. This program is a little bit buggy, and I think if you try to move faster than the program takes to kind of catch up to what you're doing, it'll bog it down, and I don't know what'll happen. As I said, I did have an image disappear the other day. Fortunately, I was able to recover it, but it can get frustrating. So I think that's most of the small little bits and pieces that I want to tend to. Later on, at the very end, if you go back, you can have a look and see if there are little things you want to fix up. So I tried to fix this little spot here with the healing brush, and it didn't work. So I can undo any mistakes that I make. If I try something and it doesn't work, like that just happened, all you simply do is hold down Command on your Mac or Control on your PC and Z. And that takes it back a step. If you want to go another step, do it again. Command Z. And you can do that as many times and it'll undo the last thing you did. Okay, so I think we've got just about what we're going to get out of the clone tool for now. We've got these bigger things here, big chunks here and up in this corner and this big piece here. One thing I haven't figured out in Photopea is how to scroll up or down, because we're actually missing sections of this photograph, which is fine, because for our case, we're going to save ourselves a little bit of time because we're going to use the crop tool. Okay, so this crop tool right here, these little two squares, you click on that, and then you just go to where you want to start, and you drag it out. Okay, now let go, and then hit return or enter. And now that's as big as our picture is. Our picture is that size. So we cut off the little corners down here, a little less work, and a little less work up here. Be careful you don't overcrop though. I mean, photographs, a good photograph is cropped the way it's cropped for a reason. So you don't want to destroy the composition while trying to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. But in this case, we can save ourselves just a tiny bit of work. So let's focus now on these big areas. So we're going to keep going with the spot healing brush. We need a larger brush, right? So simply right square bracket, make it larger, and then just take your time. Small steps, okay? You don't want these big steps. We'll focus on some of these areas of detail within the figure himself in a little bit. Now, you can start to see what I was talking about. If you've got this thick brush, right, this thick heavy brush, and you're making big strokes, if you can see, it's filling this space in here, but it's also kind of flattening out. We're losing our texture in the background, and we don't really want that. You can even see over here, you can see where that line was. Now, the average viewer, the person who doesn't know where all these creases and things were, they may not recognize that for what it is, but I see it and you see it, and so we want to try to avoid that. So it's actually quite simple. We're going to change tools. Instead of the healing brush tool, we are going to use the clone tool. Okay, so just grab your clone tool, and using the same bracket to make it larger, we want to make it larger, make it whatever size you want. And we're just going to bring it onto the canvas wherever we want, and it's doing the exact same thing. It's reading the information, only this time on the inside as opposed to the outside, and it's going to it's like a stamp, literally. It's just going to pick up whatever it's hovering over. So if I hold it right here, it picked up everything inside that circle, and now look what I can do. I don't want that, so I'm going to put it over here because this is what I do want, because I'm going to fix this corner up here. So all you simply do is get the right size that you want, hold down Option or Alt on your keyboard, you'll see the little plus sign, and then left click, and then let go. And now it's actually picked up everything that was in there, and we're simply going to click it right there. Now, I did one thing wrong, and I'm going to tell you about that. I got rid of that little spot, but if you notice, I also have a sharp edge right here. It's a perfect razor sharp circle, and I don't want that either. So what I want to do is go to my clone tool, and I want to go up here to our sharpness, and hardness is at 100%. I want to bring it down a little bit. You can use the presets, you can set it yourself, but you want that soft edge. Okay, so I'm going to do exactly the same thing again, make it a little larger. Option, left click, let go. And then you can see that soft edge there. I'm going to put it right here. And now we've lost that hard edge. There's a spot right here that I don't like. Let's do it again. Grab it. Option, click. Gone. Never know what was there. Little spot there I don't like, right there. As we get down further, it gets a little darker, so let's be aware of that and allow for that. So simply go, grab it, click, and paste it. And to paste it, all you do is, without touching the option button, you just left click again. We'll do the same thing up here. Now you can see why you don't just do it once, that you have to keep grabbing from the same area, because now my grab is from down here somewhere, but it's much brighter up in this corner. So I need to re-grab once again. So again, Option or Alt and left click, and then you just drag it where you want it, and you see now it's the same set of tones, and left click. And once you get a big enough area, you can turn around and grab a larger section and fill in a bigger piece of your photo. What else? Okay, so that is your clone tool, and we've filled in all of these problematic areas. Now with our clone tool, we will start fixing up some of the kid here. Okay, so let's grab some hair, grab and paste. The beauty of things like hair and other patterns, like down in his sweater, is that they kind of already have a whole lot of texture in them, or a really dark spot like this that's got a little bit of texture and some darkness, and it just kind of hides the repairs that we're making, and it just helps work to our advantage. Now we're going to go across and do the same thing on the kid's face, but we're going to lose part of this eyebrow, and we're going to lose part of his ear. And we'll fix that in a few minutes, but let's get rid of this crease that goes straight across his head. Now I don't like that. That's a little too solid for me. It's too much like a dot. So I'm going to change the hardness and make my circle a little bigger. Now you can see it's much softer. It's much less obviously. Remember to grab right from the same area that you're trying to fix to maintain those tonal values and things. I'm actually not too concerned about this eyebrow. It looks terrible. It looks like a bunch of little dots because that's exactly what it is. But we're actually going to copy this eyebrow and paste it here in a little bit. So I'm not too worried about that. So most of this will get covered, so I'm not even going to worry too much about that part in there. I am worried about his ear though, so I'm just going to grab his ear, grab right beside his ear rather, and I'm just going to chop it right off, Van Gogh style. Let's go down and just touch up this sweater. Now again, because we're in the sweater, it's already full of all kinds of different textures and things. We don't have to worry about being too delicate in there. So we're going to use our our spot healing tool again. And in this case, we'll just do what we did before. A lot of the times these textures work to our advantage. They hide the repairs that we make. You can do this, you can use this too if you've got a picture of, like, I don't know, something laying in the grass, but there's a gum wrapper there in the way or something and you don't want it. Because the grass is so full of texture, you can just use this and you'd never know it was there. So now we have to take care of the little corners down here. And in this case, we're going to go back to the clone tool and we're going to grab, and now my little circle is off the edge, but that's okay because the space that we're going to fill in is also off the edge. So if I grab that, you can see that I've got that edge on there. That's okay though, because I want to just line it up anyways. And then we'll go back to our spot healing brush. Sometimes you just have to monkey with things until something works. Now, ideally, I would take the time to make this nice and sharp, the way his shoulders are. But it's an old photograph. We're going to be recoloring it. It's never going to look like a modern photograph. Because photographs back in those days, this picture is probably over 100 years old, the photos were never razor sharp the way modern photos are now. So you can get away with a couple of little things like that. If you really want to be a perfectionist, take the time to fill that in with sharper lines. I'm not too worried about it. It lends itself to the sort of historical value of the photo itself. There's a spot here on his collar and a spot here down in the shirt collar area, and we have to fill those in as well. So again, using our clone tool, I'm just going to, in this case, I'm also going to sharpen this up a little bit. Just takes a little bit of monkeying around sometimes. So this is an example of what I was talking about. I don't know what this red line is for all of a sudden. Not sure where it came from. I don't know what it does. And these are some of the things that this program does. I don't understand it. It doesn't seem to be impacting what we're doing. So and now we're done. And that red line disappeared. I don't know what it was. I don't know why it was there, but there you have it. So I see a couple of little spots down here that I still want to tend to, so just real quick, I'm going to use the clone tool instead. As I said, sometimes you just have to experiment. This is a little more reliable in Photoshop, but a little less reliable here in Photopea. But we're getting there. We only have a couple of things left, and then we'll be done. The one thing I want you to notice is three things actually. His eyebrow here, his ear here, and this shoulder, which sort of seems to just disappear into the background. We're going to copy and paste sections onto the multiple layers. So the first thing we want to do now, this is our layer that we've been working on. We want to create a new layer, so go down here to new layer and click new layer. Now you can see that this is dark and this is light. You can tell which layer is active because it's darker. So right now, anything I do is going to be effective only on this active layer. So if I decide that I want to put a silly circle on the guy's face, I haven't ruined anything because it didn't do anything to our original image. I can just close this layer and it'll disappear. It's not on the original layer. If I close that layer though, we lose our base photo that we've been working on. So clicking it, now it's dark, that means it's the active layer. And anything I do, if I try to do this squiggly line again, it will be on that one, but not on this one. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that because it was just for demonstration purposes. We'll make our new layer, and now in Photoshop, we would use the clone tool, just like we did before, and I would just clone this corner of his shoulder, and I'd bring it over onto a new layer and plunk it there. But I can't figure out how to get it to let me post something onto a new layer. So I'm simply going to use our rectangle tool instead. And it will do the exact same thing, it's just, it's kind of a cheap way of doing it. So I'm just going to grab that. Now I want to copy this. So on your Mac keyboard, you're going to hold down Command C, and on a PC, you're going to Control C, making sure that this layer, this original layer, is our active layer, and then I'm going to paste it onto layer 1. Okay, so activate layer 1, and then Command or Control V. Now it doesn't look like anything happened on our photograph, but you can actually see that little square right here. Okay, so now we're going to go to our Move tool, and we don't even necessarily realize it, but we now can pick this little piece up and drag it over here. Now, it's in the right spot, roughly, but now it's the wrong configuration. So we're going to go up to Image. Make sure you're staying within the Photopea menus. Don't go up here into your Safari or your Chrome or whatever looking for these things. You won't find them there. You have to make sure that you're staying down here. So we're going to go to Edit, go all the way down to Transform, and then flip horizontally. Now, with your Moves tool selected, you're going to use the arrows on your keyboard, or you could use the Move tool to drag it around. But I like to use the arrows, it's a little more precise. You can just kind of bring it around and put it where you want it to be. I just try to line it up as best you can. It's not going to line up perfectly, and that's okay, because most of this we're now going to turn around and erase. So using our eraser tool, all we want is this edge of his shoulder. So we can get rid of all of this stuff. Now it's too bright, right? Darker on this side. So we're going to go to Image, Adjustments, and we'll play with some brightness and contrast and things. So just use your sliders, bring that brightness down so it looks like it's relatively similar to what you're already working with on that side. When you're done, you just hit OK. And now we've sharpened up that edge a little bit. We just have a little more obvious separation between the shoulder and the background. That'll become more obvious because the next thing we'll do is recolor this image. But right now, this does exactly what we want it to do. It just creates a separation from the background to our shoulder. We're going to do the exact same thing for the kid's eyeball and the ear, and we're going to do each of those things on a new layer. We can also go up to Image Adjustments and Levels. Just another tool that you have at your disposal. And you can play with the levels a little bit, and as you can see, it's darkening that up a little. Don't want to go too dark because then it doesn't match. So a little bit darker on that side of the face, so it might make sense for it to be a bit dark. And we got it. That is our eyebrow now intact. We'll do the exact same thing again. Background is active. And we're done. That's it. That's all there is to it. Now you simply save it as a JPEG, and when the time comes, we will recolor this image as well. Okay, so congratulations. That was Photopea. With a few exceptions, we went through the exact same process that you would have with Photoshop. Just a couple of the tools are different and they work a little bit differently, so we make do. So congratulations. Don't forget that this will be submitted, and you will have to put it on your website. Okay?